Hi there, Paul here, and thanks for coming along on my next trip. So today we're going to be going from Detroit to Rome at a distance of 4,610 miles and a flight time of 9 hours and 3 minutes. This is Records Travels. Let's take a trip. And if you like videos about flying and travel, please consider clicking on the subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and also clicking on the bell so you'll be the first to be notified when I post a new video. Upon landing in Detroit, I located the information for my flight to Rome, which was flight 236 going out of gate A60, and the little red icon there indicates that this is a gate that's probably best accessible by the express tram in the Detroit airport. And you can see that to get to the express tram, you simply take one of the escalators upstairs to the loading area for the tram. And if you have any kind of appreciable distance to cover within the Detroit airport, this is definitely the best way to get around. It's quick, it's easy, it's fast, there's plenty of room, and it'll save you a ton of time in walking throughout the terminal. So you can see that the express tram is going to save you a lot of time in walking and get you through the terminal very quickly. I actually got off probably one stop earlier than I needed to and had to walk the rest of the way. But as you can see, the concourse in the Detroit airport is very wide and spacious, and there's the moving sidewalks to get you where you need to be quickly. And before I knew it, I was at gate A60 for my flight to Rome. So the gates at the Detroit airport are pretty spacious. There's plenty of room, plenty of seating, and even for a large flight like this, it didn't feel crowded at all, which was really nice. So tonight I'm going to be flying on a Boeing 767-300, which has 208 seats, 36 of which are in Delta One, 29 in Comfort Plus, and 143 economy seats. And find my way to seat 3D. Now, one of the things to be aware of in Delta One is that the seats are staggered, and so I wanted to be sure that I had a seat that was immediately adjacent to the window, and so that would be the seats that are in the odd numbered rows. The even numbered rows are going to be staggered opposite, so they're going to be directly on the aisle, and you can see that. I prefer to be on the window because it just gives you a little bit more privacy and distance from the people and the food cart as it goes by. You can see this seat has a whopping 81 inches of pitch, which allows it to lay flat later on, which is very important, and 21 inches of width, which is a nice, wide, comfortable seat. At the seat when you arrive, there's also the noise-canceling headphones that are provided to you, which I didn't use, and I'll talk a little bit more about storage here in just a moment, but storage at the seat is actually fairly limited, and so to have those kind of laying around was a little bit annoying. And then there's the Tram Amenity Kit, and I'll open that up and show you what's inside of that a little bit later on in the course of this video. There's also a complimentary bottle of Dasani water, and also at the seat you can take a quick look at the ports that are there, universal power port, USB, and a reading light. So as the rest of the passengers finish boarding the plane, let's take a closer look at just the amount of room that a Delta One seat provides. And you can see for the legroom, it's very impressive. There's plenty of room to be able to stretch out. It's going to make a 9-hour flight really great. And you can also see the Westin Heavenly bedding present to be put to good use a little bit later on when it's time to sleep. So at this point, as everybody's getting settled in, myself included, I'm ready to go. But flight attendants come around with a nice little pre-flight drink, which is a glass of Prosecco, which was very nice. Again, taking a look at the extra space there, but one thing, you're not able to stow any baggage down there, and so storing things at the seat is very, very limited. The seat back pocket there was extremely tight. I had enough room to be able to get my charging cable in there, but that was really about it. So I had to put my backpack in the overhead bin, which I normally do not do. You can see here also the controls for the seat, which are easily accessible, and the button that will release the table that you can use when it comes time to dine. So everybody's loaded at this point onto the plane, and it's time to be able to push back and head on out and get ready to take off for Rome. though it was kind of a hazy day in Detroit, no matter how many times I fly on an airplane, I still love the takeoff and the views that you get out the window. For me, it never gets old, and it's part of the reason I enjoy flying so much. So shortly after takeoff, taking a look at the flight tracker and the in-flight entertainment system tells me that the flight is scheduled to arrive in Rome in 8 hours and 18 minutes, which is significantly less than the 9 hours and 3 minutes scheduled flying time. So that means we're going to catch a good tailwind across the Atlantic. In preparation for the meal service, flight attendants come around with a hot towel, which is always a great way to feel a little bit cleaned up and refreshed before the meal service. Now, I did also want to point out that you are given a remote control because the screen is such a distance from where you're actually sitting, but the remote control I had didn't seem to work very well. It wasn't terribly responsive. It might make things a little bit easier to go through the in-flight entertainment options, but I didn't find it so. So I just used it the old-fashioned way and used the touch screen and wound up just putting the remote control back in the armrest where it belonged and didn't really use it the rest of the flight. So here's another look again at the reading light, the USB port, and the universal power port, which are easily accessible at your seat. As is typical on a long-haul international flight, the flight attendants are going to serve you dinner as quickly as possible so that you have plenty of time to be able to sleep during the course of the flight. So starting off here, they come by and bring a couple little snacks and offer a choice of wine. And I got to do a little bit of wine tasting, which was kind of nice. I wound up selecting a very nice Malbec for my dinner tonight. And about 2 days before the flight, I actually received an email from Delta asking me to select my entree, which I thought was really cool. And so there were 4 choices that were available, and I'll show you what my choice was a little bit later on. Before the actual main course came, they brought by some appetizers, which included a salad, a couple pieces of shrimp, a little corn chowder, and your choice of breading, which I chose a very nice pretzel roll. It was very good. And that corn chowder was awesome. It was really good. So for my dinner choice, I selected the beef tenderloin. And it was really nice that when dinner time came, that's exactly what was put in front of me. A very large piece of beef, actually, along with some potatoes and some asparagus. And it was really, really good. The beef was cooked perfectly. It was very, very enjoyable. It was just a really, really nice dinner, but not too filling, which is what you want when you're getting ready to sleep on an airplane. So I really enjoyed this meal a lot. It was excellent. So as dinner started to wind down, the flight attendants came through with a sundae cart and put together a very, very nice sundae for me, which consisted of vanilla ice cream, caramel, and some whipped cream, along with a little cookie. It was absolutely wonderful and a really, really nice treat to end up the meal service. It was fantastic. I mean, how can you go wrong with vanilla and caramel? I mean, who doesn't love that? It was just great. I loved it. So all Delta One customers receive a complimentary Amenity Kit from Toomey that contains a variety of products that are useful both during and after your flight. So let's take a look at what's inside. You get an eye mask, a pair of earplugs, a small pen, a pair of socks, a small bottle of hand sanitizer. Along with that, you get a tube of lip balm and also hand lotion. You also get a small package of tissues. And then you get a little dental kit. You get a small toothbrush, you get a tube of toothpaste, and you also get a single-use mouthwash. So after the meal service and everything is cleaned up and put away, the cabin lights go off, and that's your cue that it's time to sleep. So let's take a quick look at the flight tracker and see where we're at in the course of this journey. And you can see we're just leaving Newfoundland, about to head out over the Atlantic, so it's time to put that seat into the lay flat position and get some sleep. The one thing I would say about this seat is that it was just a little bit narrow, but I didn't feel confined, but it was just noticeable. But it didn't impact my ability to sleep at all, which was terrific. I did wake up at one point during the evening to see that we were still about 4 hours out from Rome. At this point, we were over the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and I was able to fall back asleep and wake up when it was time to serve breakfast. So with a little more than an hour to go before landing in Rome, the flight attendants turn the lights on in the cabin and get everybody ready for the breakfast service. And I have to say, I slept great. It was really, really nice to be able to lay flat and sleep overnight, and I felt so much better than I normally do on these long-haul flights. Now, the flight attendants came around with some hot towels, which of course is always a nice way to freshen up a little bit, wake yourself up, and get ready for breakfast. And what else goes great after a good night's sleep but a terrific cup of coffee? And so again, service was just really, really great here in Delta One. The flight attendants were super attentive. They have everything that you needed right there, and they were always looking out for you. And so it was really, really nice to be able to have a nice cup of coffee and then to be served a really, really nice breakfast. And I was able to choose from a couple of, well, first of all, a couple of different bread options. I went with a really, really nice croissant. They had a quiche, or they had, I think like it was yogurt and fruit. I went with the quiche, which was served on a little hot tray, which was really, really nice. And it was great too. But this was not something that I had the option to choose ahead of time. You were just kind of given the option of whatever they had available. But I lucked out and got the quiche, and it was really, really good. I mean, this is not a bad breakfast to have an hour before you land in Rome after an 8.5 hour flight. And the bacon was really good too. So that was a nice little treat. So, starting to see some land as we're just off the coast of Italy now, looking out over the Mediterranean and descending down into Rome, getting ready to wrap up this flight. And so at this point, we had less than a half an hour to go. We're definitely descending. Looking out the window, you can see the Mediterranean and the coast of Italy, and it just looks amazing. Italy is a wonderful country. I wish I could have spent more time here, but I was connecting on to another destination, but it definitely made me want to come back. And right before we landed, the cabin crew came around one more time, and they gave everybody a nice little treat, which was just a small piece of chocolate, which I thought was a nice little touch. So much like what I said earlier about the takeoff, I love the landings too. I love the view out the window and getting to see where it is you've been flying all this time to be able to get to. And so touching down in Rome was really, really nice. It was a great flight, just first rate all around. And I really, really enjoyed my experience in Delta One. It was outstanding. So now as we taxi to the gate here in Rome, I want to thank everybody again for taking the time to watch this video. Hopefully you found it interesting and informative, and I appreciate any comments, likes, feedback of any kind that you have, and I really do thank you for watching. See you next time.